Today, modern science has flourished and is accepted globally. However, it has not always flourished like it used to. Modern science owes its flourishing state to a certain man who fashioned a new scientific method. In order to see who this man is, we'll have to flip back to 1564, February 15th, in Pisa, Italy, where a baby named Galileo di Vincenzo Bonanucci di Galilei, or Galileo Galilei, was born. Galileo Galilei makes several contributions to modern science. He invented several things, conducted a lot of experiments, made a number of discoveries. However, his process of making these contributions were far from smooth. His contributions were met from disapproval from the church. Now, before you start a rant and think, who died and made the church the boss of everything? You must realize that back then, science, religion, and philosophy were basically all the same thing, and were controlled by the church. First of all, let's take a look at some of the little things that Galileo did. Galileo invented measuring tools such as the thermometer, and he also invented, more like improved, the telescope in 1609, which is interesting considering the fact that the telescope had already been invented by Hans Lippershey in 1608. However, Galileo made his very own telescope without ever taking a look at Lippershey's telescope. In time, he improved his original telescope design, which had 3x magnification, into a telescope with 30x magnification. This made Lippershey's telescope look like a piece of rotten bamboo. On 7th January 1610, Galileo was looking through his Galilean telescope, which was a self-centered name in our opinion, considering that the fact that the telescope already has a name. He noticed what he described as 3 fixed stars, totally invisible by their smallness. These stars were all close to the planet Jupiter. What Galileo was actually observing were 3 of Jupiter's 4 moons, Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. He then observed that these stars were changing their location in such a way that led him to say that these so-called stars are orbiting Jupiter. This statement goes against geocentrism, which states that the Earth is the center of the universe and everything revolves around the Earth. At the time, everyone believed in geocentrism as the church thought that they were in the center of the world. Galileo's statement states that it's the Earth that now revolves around the Sun, as do all other planets. This statement is now known as heliocentrism, helio coming from the Latin sun. When he published his findings, the full wrath of the church was upon him. Unfortunately for Galileo, he was not able to fully explain the cause of tides, which was a real problem at the time. Another unfortunate fact was that the Pope's argument, which states that God can do anything in any way he wants, was more powerful than Galileo's evidence. Galileo was soon placed under house arrest. Although Galileo failed to correct geocentrism, the act of using observation and evidence in order to determine whether a theory was true or not gave birth to the scientific method. The scientific method is basically a process for experimentation, observation, and answering a certain question. The scientific method can be divided into 7 or 8 steps. The first step is to make a question or problem. The second step is to do background research on the topic. The third step is to construct a hypothesis. The fourth step is to test your hypothesis with an experiment or multiple experiments. The fifth step is to analyze the results of the experiments and draw your conclusion. The next step depends on the result of the experiment. If the hypothesis was entirely true, you would report your results. If it turns out that your hypothesis was false, you would go back to the third step and construct another hypothesis and continue on from there. The idea of science from awakening concepts like ethics and theology wasn't greeted by open arms from the Aristotelian philosophers. In fact, they disagreed with it so much, science was able to break away from philosophy completely. In case you're wondering who Aristotle was, he was a Greek philosopher who stated that all matter is made out of air, water, earth, fire, and ether. This rubbish has been believed for 2,000 years, and today we look back and smirk at Aristotle's claim because we all know that the building blocks of all matter are atoms. Anyway, since science and philosophy were 2 different things, scientists were able to form theorems and conduct experiments without having the church shove their greasy noses into their business. Galileo had succeeded in permanently changing Western thought. Today, Galileo is considered to be the father of science and was the first to separate science from philosophy, making them 2 different things. If Galileo had not made these contributions and believed in what he thought was worth fighting for, even to this day we'd all think that the sun orbits the earth and that our underwear is made of fire. Well, not really, but anyway, you get the idea. Galileo thought that his beliefs and his scientific method were what was worth fighting for. He had to endure many hardships when it came to getting his theories approved by the public. He was met with disapproval by the church, but he had to persevere. He kept formulating his theories and kept returning back to the church, until eventually he was excommunicated and taken to trial in front of the Inquisition for heresy against the church. Basically, he was just going against what the church had been teaching for a long time, and the church didn't really appreciate that. However, he persevered, and in the end, his way of thinking and what he did affected the world and changed everyone's lives in a huge way. If Galileo had not changed this way, who knows what life would be like?